Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. On this week's show, that list includes Dredge and Persona 3.
He wanted to say, like, Judge Dredge. But it's just Dredge.
Metroid Dredge.
Metroid Dredge. Well, that doesn't sound very good. I don't know if I want to play that one.
It might make Metroid Dread a better game.
Oh. Back with the hot Metroid Dread takes this week.
I'm willing to acknowledge that I'm probably in the minority on that opinion. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
good news is a lot of people like Metroid Dread.
That's fine. Sure.
Yeah, I'm happy for them.
They're allowed to. Absolutely. What's the thing from Groundhog Day? A lot of people like blood sausage. Do you want some blood sausage?
Oh, is that from Groundhog Day? I don't remember.
That's from Groundhog Day. Yes, yeah.
Well, time to watch that again, I guess.
People like weird things. They're allowed to like it.
Trying to rewatch that. Maybe rewatch Judge Dredd. Play some Dredge.
Which Judge Dredd, though?
The new one, the recent one was just called Dredd, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't want to rewatch the Stallone one. That one was not very good.
It's not great, no.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who was Dredd in the other one? Is it Eric Bana?
So, that would be something. That was Carl Urban, wasn't it?
Carl Urban. Where did I get Eric Bana? Yeah. Yes. Carl Urban is Dr. McCoy.
Yeah, I would just love to see, Samus Aran take off her helmet, though, and it's Sylvester Stallone in there. It's like, oh, what a big surprise this time. Yeah, it's like, that's what he sounds like without the helmet on.
Right, exactly. Well, no wonder he didn't talk through the whole game.
Oh, man. Has Sylvester Stallone been in any games? I assume, like, there was a Demolition Man and probably even a Judge Dredd game at some point. But it's not like, I don't know. What's he been in recently? Did they make an Expendables game?
I don't know that they made Expendables video games, no. There was definitely a Rambo game at some point, was there not?
Oh, yeah, there was. There was
Rambo the video game.
A terrible, terrible Rambo game.
2014.
Yeah, oh man. Maybe it's best we forget about Sylvester Stallone's video games. Sorry, Sylvester. Sorry, Sly, whatever his name is.
Oh, from the developer who is making the RoboCop game now.
Oh, good.
The
RoboCop game, like, does it look kind of good?
It looks not terrible. Yeah.
It looks not terrible. Yeah.
It looks better than my memory of this Rambo game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like when it comes to sort of like big license video games, not terrible. Like if that's where you start out, that's more or less it's kind of a good place for your game to be.
Yeah. Yeah, this developer apparently is all about licensing the 80s and 90s properties because they have made Rambo video game, they've made a Terminator video game, and now they're making a RoboCop video game.
Okay.
The developer is called
It's like the big three.
Yes, that's my late 80s, early 90s trio. Yes.
Yeah.
Get a Die Hard game in there. I'm in. That's my quadrilogy.
They already made a Die Hard game. Did you play Die Hard Trilogy? I
did, of course I did. Yeah, I had that on the PS2. No, PS1.
PS1. It was pretty good.
It was fine.
It was fine from the Die Hard connoisseur. Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
I know what it's like.
Yeah, I like the other. What was the other video game that Bruce Willis sort of lended his likeness and voice to?
Oh,
Apocalypse.
Like Apocalypse. Yeah.
Yes, that was. I enjoyed that more. I thought that was better.
I was watching somebody stream that the other day, and I was like, this looks like it's not terrible. I mean, I was fully expecting just complete big celebrity likeness sort of license game schlock, but I was like, I might actually play this. I don't know. Yeah.
I have no sense of how something like that would age or how well something like that would age. But in the era that it came out, I appropriately minimal expectations for video games, and I have fond memories of playing it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Man, I think it's a great time to get back and explore some of those weird PS1 era games because they're just so weird. Maybe it's time for me to play Apocalypse. Can you get that on? Is that on the PS Plus collection? I'm sure it's a licensing nightmare.
Should be. Yeah, probably. 1998, developed by Neversoft.
Neversoft, those
Bruce Willis,
the Tony Hawk guys.
Yes, I believe they did go on to make the Tony Hawk games. Yeah.
Oh man, they have a Bruce Willis unlockable skater skin.
I don't know. Bruce Willis played a scientist in it, if you could believe that.
Oh yeah, well I guess the scientist, probably the same scientist he played in I don't know, what was that other movie where he was a scientist with an assault rifle? Maybe that was somebody else.
I'm not sure. I'm looking at the screenshots now, and it's just his clearly his sort of texture mapped face on a 1998 video game body with his dead eyes and his emotionless face. Yeah, excellent. This is a good time.
Oh man. All right, all PlayStation 1 backlog this year.
That might be rough. That's
sounds like a great time. What are you talking about?
It's going to be some ugly video games.
They might be ugly, but they got character.
What they lack in looks, they make up for in style.
Exactly. Speaking of style, I don't know. I want to talk to you about this new Zelda game coming out.
Oh, I've heard of it.
You've heard of it? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, then I don't have to catch you up, which is always good. I've kind of been batting this idea around in my head for a few weeks to do sort of a Zelda Tears of the Kingdom predictions.
Oh.
Before the game comes out. And I decided, well, we should probably do it this week because between us recording this episode and the episode coming out later in the week, there is some kind of Zelda gameplay thing happening.
Yes.
Which may potentially answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get it in there while we are still ignorant of what is going on in this game. I don't know how closely you've been following this. I have been almost completely sort of radio silence on this.
So one, I want to call you out on the fact that you thought it was a good idea to spring this on me with zero preparation. So,
okay.
Awesome co-hosting there, DJ. Thank you. And,
well, that's the idea that we're not prepared for this.
It should just be stream of consciousness, just
yeah, I want to know what you are thinking. Sort of, it's very off the cuff.
That's good radio.
It's great radio.
So, yeah, I sort of feel that, yes, like you, we're recording this on Monday, heard that, tomorrow, is it Aonuma is going to share 10 minutes of gameplay footage, never be seen before, sort of hosted by him. And I'm like, do I want to know that? Do I want that in my head? I know I'm going to play.
I don't think I want to know. I mean, that's my thing. I'm going in as blind as possible.
But yeah, it's only 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes of a 200-hour game, right? At least.
Sure.
Probably. So, I think I have room for 2% of Tears of the Kingdom in my head. Yeah.
You're free to make that decision.
Thank you.
But no, so is the thing you're worried about not having any predictions for the predictions segment? Because don't worry about that. I have the predictions for you.
Are you all predictions all the time? Yeah, I am. I have expectations. I don't know if I have predictions.
Okay.
I think it's interesting that to cut you off. Sorry. The game is not far off. It comes out May 12th. So how far away is that? A month and 2 weeks. And we know very little about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is impressive in this day and age.
Right. A few really cryptic trailers. The most recent of which seems to have sort of, as these things go, kind of given away the most. But still, if you asked me to take a test afterwards, I'm like, what is Tears of the Kingdom about? I don't think I would have a clue. I have no idea.
There may be a Triforce at some point.
There might be, yes.
I don't even know if that's true or not. So, anything I say about this, if it's a spoiler, I apologize. I had no idea it was a spoiler.
The irony is by the time this episode comes out, that 10-minute of gameplay thing will have already aired. So this might be, we may have to go back in time and do this last week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it'll be fine. We'll just look silly if we were completely off with some of these.
Cool. Wouldn't be the first time.
Sure. But as far as the actual predictions go, I had 3 very specific questions in mind that I just wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
So it's not... Well, some of these are kind of boiled down to yes or no, but I think we could get more nuance about it if you want to.
No.
No. Okay, just no. Blanket no across the board.
Yeah, that's kind of my policy, actually. Most things in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this will be a very quick segment. So anyway, prediction number 1. Will Zelda Tears of the Kingdom have traditional Zelda dungeons? What are your thoughts?
Do we consider the shrines from Breath of the Wild dungeons?
Well, this is a good question. What defines a traditional Zelda dungeon to you? I would not consider the shrines to be traditional Zelda dungeons. They are shrines.
I says it right there on the label. That's
yeah. I think the shrines are their own thing. When I think of a Zelda dungeon, it's a much more involved and a longer experience.
And usually it
has like a
around.
boss at the end.
Yeah.
It's got some special item it's hiding in there that you have to get. And maybe there's some theme around the entire dungeon, like the water temple or whatever.
So by that logic, then, in Breath of the Wild, the only dungeons were the infernal machines, the giant robots you had to kill.
Yes, and those come the closest to being dungeons in Breath of the Wild, but they still don't... I feel like they don't meet all of my criteria, because if I remember correctly, they did not have unique treasures hidden that you had to retrieve and then use to solve the rest of the dungeon. Is that right?
I don't remember.
I feel like they were all... Like, you just used your 3 sort of physics powers.
I'm going to agree with you, but I don't recall, actually. We'll see if somebody who's played it more recently than 2017 has thoughts on that. They'll notify us in the comment section.
Okay. What are your thoughts about what we'll see in Tears of the Kingdom?
I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I liked the shrines. I had a lot of fun doing those. They were
I hope there
cool.
are more shrines. I'd be fine with more shrines.
I don't want to get away from that, but I'm not sure if that's a fair trade for the traditional dungeon like layout. Yeah. I suspect there will be something that feels dungeony in the game. I think that's probably like the biggest piece of like negative feedback anyone has about Breath of the Wild is there's no dungeons. There's no dungeons in this game. I suspect somebody who makes Zelda games probably has heard that a few times and maybe thought, we should give the people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I kind of think there might be something that feels more like a traditional Zelda dungeon. Although, as I'm sort of racking my brain from the few trailers of this that we've seen, I don't feel like there's anything that they've shown that feels like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, cautiously optimistic, but not certain by any means.
I'm still thinking about your comment that someone at Nintendo has been listening to fan feedback and incorporates that into future games that they're making. I was like, is that true? I would think.
Despite all the evidence to the contrary, I somehow believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that we'll fall slightly short of having sort of the traditional dungeon experience. I think it'll be more akin to like the mythical beasts. We'll maybe get a more evolved version of those things. And I think specifically where we'll fall short is we're not going to get special items from each dungeon because it just doesn't seem like it fits with what was going on in Breath of the Wild 1.
Yeah, I think the hook with this current, like I would say the current sort of perspective on how a Zelda game is staged is go anywhere, do anything, and you really can't build a system into that requires a specific item to sort of bestowed upon you in a specific order. So, or you just have to come back to it later, which is very much a part of Breath of the Wild anyways. So, I don't know. I'm not sure if that would be the case.
Although it got me thinking, like in, what was the game? Link Between Worlds, you just had access to all the items immediately because you just rent them from that store.
Right, from the bunny. You had to rent them from the bunny.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. But wait, wouldn't the items be in the dungeon so you can just get them early from the store? I don't remember exactly how the game worked. I just now recalled that possible thing.
That sounds possible.
Okay. Okay, so I was just thinking, like, well, they already made a game where you didn't have to get stuff out of the dungeons, but it was sort of because there was this loophole. So, who knows? Maybe they'll have a rental shop in Tears of the Kingdom. But anyway, so it sounds like we're not totally committed to just the full return of traditional Zelda dungeons in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily feel like that's a negative for me, though.
No, I don't think it's necessarily negative, but it's just been high on people's wish lists, I think.
Sure. Maybe that's the DLC. How cool would that be if you have the entire sort of like structure of the game is just sort of, its thing. And then, oh, hey, by the way, if you want to do some dungeons, here's the season's pass.
I hope it would be, just like a la carte dungeon DLC. Like, oh, you want the fire temple? Well, here it's $4.99. Get the water temple. It's another $4.99, whatever.
They did it with Tomb Raider. That last Tomb Raider game had a new dungeon a month, every month for a year after it came out, and you had to buy the little season pass to get them. Yeah, 12 additional giant, crazy Lara Croft Tomb Raider dungeons at your disposal.
Were they all like famous ancient ruins? Like, here's the Machu Picchu dungeon or something.
You and Laura get to destroy it together. Yeah. No, they were not, but yeah, that'd be perfect.
Oh, that, seems like something they should do. Okay. Anyway, moving on, because we got a couple more of these.
Okay.
Prediction number 2. Your weapons will break in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I think that's here to stay. I don't think that's going on.
You think it's just going to be, broken swords all over the place? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I think Nintendo has been listening to people's feedback about dungeons, but not about breakable weapons. So if you're looking for consistency, you've come to the wrong place. But yeah, I think the breakable weapon thing is here forever. As much as I dislike the weapon degradation from Breath of the Wild, I like that the game gives you just hundreds of different swords. And the best motivator to kind of experiment and not just stick with one that you like is that they keep breaking on you. So you kind of always like, what's this one do? What's this one do? As, some giant robot is trying to laser target your head. So yeah, I think that's very much going to be a thing we're stuck with for Zelda games from now on.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about from now on. I think definitely in Tears of the Kingdom, it'll still happen.
Whatever this
Zelda era.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm really hoping that it won't be the exact same system from Breath of the Wild. They'll have refined it a bit just to pacify people like myself who were not huge fans of it, or at least who thought it could benefit from a great deal of tweaking and sort of adjustments.
What would refinement look like to you? What would make that system feel more tolerable?
I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not the one making the game.
No, I know,
but maybe something to just sort of like alleviate the fact that it seemed like you just barely got any use out of any of those weapons. Like, it was
very fragile. Yes.
Yeah. It was tough to have a favorite weapon, and it led to a lot of just like weapon hoarding, which I think is not a good thing. So I don't know, like maybe they just don't break as frequently. That's an easy one.
Yeah.
Maybe you can do something to repair them, or like sprinkle some powder on it so it reduces the durability breakdown for a period of time.
Fortify a weapon that you like.
Yeah, maybe it would lead to like some kind of weapon crafting or enhancement system. People love that kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna craft the hell out of some weapons in this game, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just something that is a little less like constant. Because I appreciate the fact that you have to be adaptable and come prepared to every encounter. But, after the breaking the third or fourth sword, fighting the same monster, I get a little tired of it.
And you're down to like a wooden plank and a pot lid taking on
it's
a giant guardian.
We're going to get a branch. A branch would come in handy right about now.
Yeah, your observation about weapon hoarding, I think, is very apt, because I do find that that one looks fancy. Let me save that weapon for a special occasion.
Yeah, let me just put that on my wall forever.
Right, and then credits roll, and I've never used it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so weapon durability probably still in, but we hope it's better this time.
Yeah.
Which brings me to the last prediction, and this is the big one that a lot of people are talking about. You will play, at some point, as Princess Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom?
I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say hard no on this one. Yeah. As much as I'd like it to be the case, as much as I'd like there to be a Zelda game where you actually get to play as Zelda, I don't see it happening. I think it's about as likely as having a fully voice-acted Link.
I agree with everything you've said, which is rare for us. But yeah, I think you're dead on accurate there. Yeah. As much as it's called The Legend of Zelda, Link is the main character, and I don't think we're going to deviate from that being the case.
Yeah. Wow, which is too bad.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. It would be very cool to have a game through her perspective, or at least a portion of the game played through her perspective. But I don't know why I don't think so, but I don't think that this is that game.
Yeah. Maybe if we're lucky, maybe if she's lucky, she'll get her own side story spin-off at some point.
DLC.
Yeah. And we're not talking about that CDI spin-off thing.
Yeah. Well, add that to the list. I mean, we are 6 weeks away from release, and we have no idea what their aftercare plan is. What is DLC going to look like for this game? Is it just a one and done? It seems unlikely. Oh, yeah. I mean, there was DLC for Breath of the Wild. Sell me a season's pass. I'm here for it.
I never played the DLC. Maybe I should do that before the new one comes out. But that was like, what was that? Was that Dungeons? Was that another mythical beast or whatever?
It was a lot of boss battles, if I remember correctly. It felt like a boss rush mode.
Okay, but you played as some of the other characters in the game, right?
You played as the I forget what they're called, but like the captains.
Yeah.
That pilot the machines, right? Is that the story?
I think so. Yeah. Okay. So.
Wow, it's 5 years is a long time. 8 years is a long time. Nope. When did that game come out? 2017. So that would be 6 years. That's how math works.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing a full replay of that game because that's quite an undertaking. But there's that DLC just waiting out there. I should check that out just to reacquaint myself with all the buttons in that game.
I think you get the motorcycle in the DLC. Is that?
I think so. Yeah, I never got the motorcycle.
Oh, okay. There's not a lot of straightaways to drive the motorcycle over.
No, it's like you have to walk the motorcycle around most of the map.
It is not a game built for motorcycling. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, if only Hideo Kojima had dropped in there, you could build some highways, take the motorcycle out.
Tears of the Kingdom, man, it looks real dark. It looks very bleak. That last trailer was. You get, of course, obviously a lot of stuff that's whatever's happening above the clouds, but much of the rest of it just feels like shrouded in darkness. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the vibe of this thing's going to be. I think it's getting a lot of parallels to kind of Majora's Mask in some of the kind of reactions to the most recent trailer. So, and it's a very weird, occasionally quite dark Zelda game that I don't love, honestly. I don't know. I think there's room certainly for the Legend of Zelda series to get a little darker and weirder, but I'm not entirely certain what tone they're going for here.
Yeah. As long as they stop themselves before they go completely Game of Thrones in gritty, serious Zelda.
Red Wedding Zelda, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so those are all my predictions. Those are my 3 burning questions. And we'll just put those away in a box and see how those turn out in May. Or maybe this Thursday. They'll all be incredibly outdated. We'll see.
We might have to issue an update on next week's episode.
Yeah. And like I said, I have really been trying to avoid all information about this game, so it could be that these are all widely known facts at this point. People are just rolling their eyes.
I've not been super judicious about kind of what I consume, but I think we're all kind of in the same boat in that we don't know a ton. So, I think none of those things, to my knowledge, have been confirmed, and I have not gone radio silent on this thing yet. So, we'll find out.
I feel like I definitely would have heard about the Zelda thing if they had confirmed that. The other two, not quite as high profile, but we'll see.
Just a little. What? Well, certainly the weapon degradation is a quality of life thing more than anything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this will hopefully be an informative week. We'll see.
Yeah. Or
no, but not too informative.
Yeah, not too informative.
Just informative enough.
All right. So, tell me about Judge Dredd.
I want to clarify this game is.
I'm sorry, Judge Dredge.
Dredge. Just Dredge. Just Dredge.
That's what I said. Just Dredge.
People are going to be very confused. They're going to be searching for games that don't exist on platforms.
On platforms.
Yep. So Dredge is a new game that I am playing, and it is a spooky fishing game.
Ooh.
Put that on your box. Yeah, where to go with this? So you
are you catching spooky fish?
You're a fisherman who finds himself in what is a collection of islands called? An archipelago. Where some weird weather patterns have happening. There's a mysterious fog. Your ship gets thrashed. You wash up on the shore of some little village, and the mayor says, "Here, we'll give you this boat. You can pay your way back by just collecting fish for us and selling them at the market, kind of earning your keep. But we'll give you this ship gratis." Which is a weird scenario that you find yourself in. And so you take it out to sea. It's not the best ship. It's a bit of a jalopy. It's got kind of a crappy motor. You can't go super far with it. And if you wander too far from the island, time passes in the game and it gets dark. And when it gets dark, you start to get a little crazy. You start to see things. You see eyes on the water. You see a mysterious mist that rolls in. You see strange things under the water, and your area of vision becomes quite limited, so you run the risk of wrecking yourself again. So
is this all implied to be just stuff that may or may not be real? It's like stuff that's happening in your mind?
Yeah, you're not 100% certain if it's real or not kind of early in the game. You have a little like sanity meter that you're monitoring, and the darker it gets and the more isolated you feel, the more batty you go when you're like away from land and lost at sea in your rinky-dink little boat. And that's when kind of the crazy stuff starts to happen around you. So you quickly learn to plan your trips better and make sure that you're somewhere near port for the night. Time only passes when you're cruising the ship or fishing. You have to fish to be able to kind of earn your keep, to make money, and to pay back the mayor. And once you get that done, the boat is yours, but then you sort of upgrade. You can get better motors, you can get better fishing tools, and you can go further and further, stray further away because you can move faster and you find things that sort of fortify your boat. You can install lights and things like that. And you start meeting new people. You start going to other islands and talking to other folks who are like, I would never go out on the water, but if you look for this for me, I'll reward you with X, Y, and Z. And some of them are upgrades for your ships. Some of them are things that allow you to get a little further away. Some of them are maps to places where you might find a sunken treasure. And some of them are weird, kind of magical things. There's a subtext of kind of like dark magic at play here, and nobody really believes these things are happening. But the more time you spend sort of at sea, the more you start to haul up strangely deformed fish with 1,000 eyes, or fish that have like electrical scales and things like that. So when you sell them at the little fishmonger, he gets very wide-eyed and pays you a ton of money for them. So you start to look for strange fish when you're out fishing. Fishing is a mini game. You have to sort of like, there's a little spiral that pops up over your ship, and you have to kind of navigate little channels inside of it to land the fish. It's not your standard run-of-the-mill video game fishing mini game.
Oh.
You have to solve a little
puzzle. How are you doing fishing? You have like a fishing rod, or are you like trawling or whatever they call it?
Well, you can do a couple things. You get the first thing you get is just kind of a basic fishing rod that allows you to do kind of coastal fish, and you have a whole encyclopedia of fish that you fill in as you go. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you'll go in the shallows, but you don't have a rod for that early on. Later on, you can get a hybrid that allows you to do coastal and shallows. If you want to go out to sea, deep sea fishing, you need special gear, so you have to attach a motor to your ship and a special heavy duty industrial fishing rod that is attached to that. on your starter ship, you can attach 2. So you kind of swap them in and out. Sometimes as you make money and get no resources, you can kind of upgrade those things. Eventually, one of the people that you're running errands for gives you a trawling net. And you can use that to pull up dredge, essentially, to pull up shipwrecks, to pull up treasure, to pull up things that may or may not have value until you find the right person to kind of trade them with. As you explore, you'll find more and more people who are like, hey, if you find this, bring it back to me. My son was lost at sea. If you can find his belt buckle, I'll be eternally grateful and I'll reward you. So every time you stop in a village, every time you stop at an island, a little encampment on a mysterious island in the middle of nowhere where there's only one person with a tent, everybody's got a story. Everybody wants to tell you some spooky tale of the last time they were at sea and why they'll never go back out on the water. Or of the mayor who used to be here and he went mad and he was throwing people's possessions out into the ocean and things like that. So it's this storytelling thing that you start to sort of dig into as you stray further and further from your home base. But yeah, fishing is more or less, it's an upgrade chain in a lot of ways, which is kind of satisfying, and a little MIDI game that is occasionally somewhat frustrating. Storage space on your ship is limited at first, of course, and it is inventory Tetris that you're playing. So some of the fish that you will pull up occupy 2 spaces on board your ship, and you've got to fill in the blocks, and you can kind of rotate them to kind of make them fit in like Tetris. Some of them are L-shaped. Some of them are huge. You can pull up a giant manta ray that takes up like 8 spaces. And I pulled up this beautiful, awesome one that was, neon orange and had lightning going through it. And I'm like, this is going to, make me a fortune. But I had to dump everything else on my ship back into the water to be able to get on board. So it's a bit of a push-pull until you can upgrade and get a bigger ship with more storage space and stuff like that. So it is kind of this interesting collection of spooky stories, strange things happening out at sea, kind of emergent gameplay as the more you further stray from your home base, the more you talk to different people in different places. Everybody's got a story. Everybody has something creepy they want to talk to you about. Everybody needs an errand run. All of that feels very video gamey, but is pretty satisfying in the way that it sort of slowly leaches out creepiness. This is a spooky game in a lot of ways. It's not a horror game. There's nothing that's ever sort of like blood dripping down the walls, but there's definitely parts of the game that are like mysterious and people have stories and they want to talk to you. So it's very dialogue heavy. And
or atmospherically spooky.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent way to describe it, actually. Yeah. As occasionally you'll pick up a passenger, somebody like, hey, I'll pay you X number of dollars if you take me to this other place. And you'll get, kind of lost at sea with them, or sometimes it'll be an overnight and they'll tell you a story as you're sort of sailing away. Yeah, when you get there,
we're just like, oh, I'm taking you right back. Should not have led with that story.
Well, you're doing like a lot of risk assessment in this, where there's a day and night cycle, and if you're away from land too much at night, you start to go a little mad until you can get lights and stuff like that on your boat. I've mentioned that. But you start to sort of like, geez, if I wake up a little bit earlier, because there's like an auto clock that goes while you're sleeping, and it wakes you up at like 5:30 in the morning every day. But like, what if I got up at 4? Like the sun is starting to come up. I could probably get an extra 90 minutes in video game time of extra fishing, of extra travel, and shave a little sleep off. But the more sleep you lose, the crazier you go. So I learned that if I'm going to get up earlier, I have to go to bed earlier. So you don't really get the time back, just like in real life. But yeah, it's interesting. I sort of crave the ability to get to new places, to have when she's like, this is somebody wants to send you on a mission that's going to take 2 days. And you're like, oh crap, if I'm away from the home port for 2 days, where do I sleep? Where can I dock safely overnight? So you've got to you get out your map, you pinpoint where that there are safe places you can travel. You make sure that you're not anywhere out to sea past 10 p.m. because that's when the spooky shit happens. So yeah, there's a lot of risk reward. I know I can make a small fortune if I just venture a little further away. But am I leveled up enough? Do I have the right tools? Do I have the right lights? Is there a place I can park overnight and keep myself safe and sleep? Because if I don't sleep, I go crazy, and on and on. So but you really want the money because you can upgrade and do more stuff and see further things and et cetera, et cetera. So it's cool. It's a really fun loop. I love the storytelling aspect of it. I find that I'm really hungry for meeting new people and hearing their horrible story of life at the sea. Yeah, and the fishing minigame is fine. It's a little bit of a distraction. It's a little bit of a trudge until you start to upgrade your ship, and it gets a little bit easier. In fact, there's a setting in the settings that if you're not having fun with the fishing minigame, you can kind of make it auto win. So after kind of like beating my head against it for the first 5 or 6 hours, I just turned it on. So you get kind of the full storytelling experience. You get the, am I willing to leverage a little bit of my sanity if it means I can make a small fortune, upgrade my ship, and get a little further away? And I don't have to sort of deal with the nightmare of trying to match up the little cogs in the fishing game.
Oh, you're talking about your own sanity?
Yes. Yeah.
Not the sanity of the character in the game?
Well, a little bit of both, actually.
Oh, okay. Oh, man. Are there like long-term side effects to just like going crazy in this game? Or you just sleep it off?
I'm not sure. I haven't really pushed it. I've had a couple of experiences where I've just had I misplanned my time. I didn't get back where I thought I should be early enough, or I thought I could dock someplace and it turns out, no, there's no dock there, or a storm came through and knocked it out or something crazy like that, of course. And then I'm out to sea overnight. So I'm like, well, guess I'm staying up.
Yeah.
And it's me usually getting back to the home village, back to dock at like 10:30, 11 the next morning, and your sanity meter is just sort of going haywire at the top of the screen. It's depicted by a pair of eyes that are just starting to dart around and are bloodshot at that point. And then you sleep. And it's like, do you want to sleep until tomorrow morning? So you say yes, and you just end up sleeping all through the day and overnight. And you've lost the ability to sort of, be productive and go out fishing that day, to talk to people, to, grow your business essentially. But the side effects of you losing your sanity are you start to see things. The mini games get much harder. So there's a lot more kind of impediments to you just sort of being to kind of able to peacefully enjoy the game. I'm not sure if ultimately you die from that or if it just gets progressively harder and harder until the game is unplayable. But I've not tested it too much.
You can't just stay up all night and you just take a day off. You sleep in, just hang out at the beach till you're feeling better.
It's certainly not quite that, luxurious.
Yeah. Wherever people hang out on
Yeah.
their days off in this game.
I've done a bit of that, but it's always sort of me like gliding into port, like on fumes with a larder full of mysterious fish, and me slowly losing my insanity from the all the crazy things I've seen at sea and all the monsters that are creeping up on my ship. And as you start to go more and more mad as you're sailing, you start to see like rocks and obstacles pop up out of the water right in front of you. So you get super twitchy as the player, and you're trying to sort of steer around them because you don't want to damage your ship. That's more money you have to pay to fix it. And during daylight, those aren't there. So the game really sort of doubles down on you start to see things at night. You see eyes out on the water. You see mysterious lights and creatures. You see phantom shipwrecks. So it really starts to play on the losing your sanity vibe. And some of those things have pretty serious repercussions. If you start running into kind of the phantom stones and things that are out to sea, you can really kind of bust up your ship, and you have to pay a small fortune to fix all those holes.
Wow. Is there like a time pressure or anything? I'm just wondering, why wouldn't you just sort of, I don't know, get rested up before the next time you head out?
I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a pressure to sort of achieve certain milestones by a certain point. I am cognizant of the fact that the game is tracking my days. At the top of the screen, it says you're playing day 10, you're playing day 11, day 12.
Okay.
So there must be a reason for that, right? If I stay out too late on day 9 and I have to sleep through the day on day 10 to restore my sanity, do I miss something by not playing on day 10? I'm not sure if the game is that sort of methodical about it, or if it's just tracking progress by counting days.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a Persona kind of experience where if you take option Y on day 15, you don't ever get to see that thing again.
How many days are you into it?
How far am I? 17, 18 days, I think, was the last time I played. And like I said, time only passes when you're fishing. So it's quick trips out to sea, and that's a lot of you being kind of back at the dock, selling fish, upgrading your ship, talking to the locals. You meet more and more eccentric people over time. So when you pull into a port, people are like, "Hey, did you do that thing I was like I would ask you to do? Did you run that errand I looked for?" You start asking people if they've heard any news about shipwrecks around, so you know where to go. They'll put little marks on your map so you can go find things to dredge up. And hopefully sell and make a little bit of money. Some of those things you find satisfy other people's missions for you. So you definitely want to pop into the inn and see if anybody's heard any rumors of strange things happening. So yeah, there's a loop to it, definitely. And in games like the most recent one that I played that sort of had a vibe that felt like this was Cult of the Lamb, where it was very much kind of two separate video games where you're part of it's a dungeon crawler and some of it is like a management sim. And Dredge feels like it has kind of that duality to it where your time in port is social links and research and making connections and upgrading your ship. And then you're out to sea and it's this frantic like race against time. You don't want to be on the open water when the sun goes down. So you're trying to collect as much fish as you possibly can. Eventually you get the ability to put out like crab pots and lobster pots. And you have to remember where they are and mark them on your map. They have little blinking green lights. You can check them every couple of days, but they start to degrade. So you have to refill them and repair them. But lobster goes for a lot of money, obviously, if you can pull them out of the ocean, and crab and stuff like that. So, obviously as a veggie person, I don't necessarily encourage people to eat a lot of seafood, but, for the sake of a video game, it's fun and quite rewarding if you can catch the right fish.
Sure.
But yeah, there is this whole like subplot of something mysterious is happening. Like I said, there's sort of fish with many eyes and electrical fish and strange things that happen. And people will talk about like the mayor who went mad I mentioned, and like the mysterious mist that rolled in one day and never went back out, et cetera, et cetera. So something
that's not good.
No, something bad is happening in this area, and the game is sort of drip feeding you little clues to kind of point you in the direction of uncovering it. So that's the whole kind of atmospheric, kind of creeping dread thing that I really like.
Man, I wonder if you like solve the mystery at the end, or if you just go completely insane and have a real dark ending. Something.
Yeah, I wonder. I have theories that for the sake of this game just came out where I'm playing an advanced copy of it. Many thanks to the developer and publisher for sharing a code with me, which is super cool. This is right up my alley. This is my kind of video game. So perfect timing on that. Thank you. So I don't want to ruin anything that other people are going to sort of discover for themselves now that the game is out and available. But I have theories. I have thoughts on where it's going and what's going on. Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, if this were a JRPG, at the end you just find the big boss who's causing all the problems and kill him, and the sun comes out. But I was like, it doesn't really seem like that kind of game. So I'm just curious how it wraps up.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything else.
Okay, that's fine. No, don't give anything
I'm
away.
mulling it over, but no, I don't want to go too far. Like I said, it literally just came out. So if any of this sounds like fun to you, I would encourage folks to check it out. It's on everything. I think it's on Steam. I'm playing it on the Switch. I know it's on the PlayStation consoles. It is called Dredge. It is a spooky fishing game.
Nice.
Yeah, I would encourage folks to check it out.
Carl Urban's in it.
I don't know how I confused Carl Urban with Eric Bana.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm just thinking of Eric Bana's chin poking out underneath the Judge Dredd helmet.
It's a very prominent chin.
Be very funny. This sounds cool. I like that. I mean, at first I was wary about just playing an entire game where you're fishing, because I feel like I've done that in plenty of other games. But no, this sounds cool. It sounds like a fun sort of twist on it. And it's like you said, it's a little spooky. I'm looking for spooky games to bring back on Spooky Saturday, so maybe I'll slot this in there.
Yeah, I'll give the developers a lot of credit for that. I think, you think you know what you're getting yourself into when I tell you, there's a video game where you fish. But this really goes out of its way to sort of present something new. The way that it handles the fishing mini game feels while not the most satisfying, at least it's not sort of the same fishing mini game you get in every video game. Which is you waiting for the vibration or the little bobber to drop, and then you've got to strike at exactly the right time. This is not the Animal Crossing fishing game. There's a little puzzle you have to solve every time.
I feel like as soon as fishing moves beyond just being a tiny mini game among 100 other mini games, you have to do something more than the Animal Crossing version of it.
Right. Yeah. And here the sort of the hook is to surround it with crazy time pressure, sanity meter, the mayor going mad, and all of this other sort of storytelling, what you call it, atmosphere that they're layering in here, where the fishing mini game and the loop of you making money and upgrading is really just a tool for you to get to new story beats and to meet new people and kind of unlock kind of the next piece of the spooky story. So to call it a sort of a fishing game is a bit reductive. It's a horror game, but occasionally you're doing fishing.
Sounds unique.
Yeah, so it's a good time. Dredge would recommend.
Cool. Incidentally, I've been getting all these ads for it's an actual fishing game for the Switch. And I don't know why I'm getting these ads, but it's funny because I just talked about that toilet paper game a couple of weeks ago with the weird toilet paper controller.
Yeah.
And this game, it looks like the hook, part of the pun, is it comes with a custom fishing controller, sort of like Wii style. You put the Joy-Cons into it, and it's like, oh, okay, so this is exactly what I was saying I wanted a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if I want to pay full price for a game that's just fishing, but by the same token, I was like, well, if it's only fishing, it's got to be more elaborate than the fishing I've been doing in Yakuza Ishin or whatever. So I was like, oh man, maybe I should put my money where my mouth is and just get into the whole world of weird controllers. Did not play that one though.
I'm sorry, what is the weird fishing mini game?
I don't remember the title. If you're really interested, I can look it up for you. But who knows? Maybe there's some weird fishing in my future.
Weird fishing.
That was the runner-up title before they went with Dredge on this one.
Yeah, there's what was the game that I played? There's a demo for it on the Switch. It's called Ace Angler. Fishing
I think that was actually it. I think that might actually be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The demo
looks like aesthetically, it looks very much like a sort of Wii, I don't want to say shovelware, but the kind of game.
Yep. Yes. Sort of approaching like a cutesy Animal Crossing style, but you're trying to run an aquarium and catch fish and then basically lock them in fish prison and lather, rinse, repeat. And the fishing minigame in the demo anyways is 3D. It's you head down over a pool of water with shadows in it, and you have to pick the right rod and pick the right bobber and use the right bait. And I'm like, this is way too molecular. I'm not into fishing enough that I want to think this much about it. So it's a very bizarre game. It's called Ace Angler. It is on the Switch. Check out the demo if you dare.
It was a different game, but now I'm going to play that one too. This one is called Fishing Star World Tour, and it comes with a plastic fishing rod, or the end of a fishing rod.
I've not heard of that. That's dumb.
It's dumb. What are you talking about?
What year is it? Plastic fishing rod. Get out of here.
I don't know. I was saying that I wanted to play something like that, so it's the perfect time.
All right.
But anyway.
Speaking
of plastic fishing rods, I played some Persona 3 again because this is not my first time playing this game.
Yeah.
It's either that or I don't even know what it is at this point. I started a new game in Persona 3, just to be clear. I tried to play this several years ago. I don't know what the impetus was for that. I think Persona 5 had just come out. And I never played one of these. And I just dropped off because these games are endless. And every few months I would consider going back to my old save file, but at this point I just decided, it's been long enough. I should get a fresh start on this. And I think it's just because they're in the process of re-releasing all the Persona games. I think they're done at this point. They got Persona 5 on the Switch. 3 and 4 came out, I believe.
I believe you're correct.
So, now I'm behind again. But anyway, so I'm playing Persona 3. And do I need to explain what Persona 3 is? It's a JRPG where you play as a high schooler. And you actually spend a lot of time just going to school in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But in the evening, you're a member of a secret society who goes into a sort of roguelike tower to fight monsters that are like having some sort of ill effect on the population of Japan. And a lot of the mystery in it is sort of figuring out why they're doing this. Where do they come from, and what is the deal behind them? And it all happens in the dark hour, which is the secret 25th hour after midnight on the clock, which I think is such just a fun element. It's like kind of a dark game in general, from what I understand, especially compared to the like later Persona games, which feel practically cheerful in comparison. Like the dungeons are kind of spooky. All the monsters they're like typical sort of Shin Megami Tensei, just kind of slightly off-kilter monster designs. A lot of very cool stuff going on there.
Mm.
And then to invoke your persona, which are like these sort of summoned monsters that help you out in battle, you like shoot yourself in the head with a gun, which I remember at the time felt very edgy. And I mean, it's still quite a dramatic sort of image, but it happens so often in this game now. It's just like second nature at this point. It's like, oh, we need a fire spell? I'll take care of that. And you just pull out a gun and like shoot yourself in the head.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I remember that being kind of the inspiration for me wanting to check out Persona 3 is seeing a trailer for it, and the kid pulls out a gun, and I'm like, what is happening in this game? Mm-hmm. And like, how is this not controversial?
Yeah.
How is this not?
Or is it not more controversial?
Yeah, I people losing their mind over drag shows and at this point, and no, wait, there's a video game where you shoot yourself in the head, and nobody cares.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, at least up to the point that I've played, it's never really explained why that is a thing. Like, I sort of understand conceptually, like, the persona is part of your soul or your inner mind or something like that, and you're releasing it by doing this. But everybody seems very, very comfortable. They're just like, oh man, welcome to the secret society. Here is your invoker pistol. And you're just like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. And you immediately just like put it up to your head. Just like, oh, okay. I don't understand. Was this just explained to all the characters at some point? Or I don't know.
Why does that seem obvious to you? Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, whatever. It's a very, very kind of stylish thing to do.
Yeah. And it is not a thing that is replicated in Persona 4 or 5.
Yeah, no, it's just in this game.
Yeah.
And this is like, aside from, a very aborted attempt to play Persona 1, this is really my only experience to Persona games. So I was just like, man, I don't remember them shooting themselves in the head in Persona 1. Is that a new thing in this? Is that only in this? And apparently, yeah, it's just in Persona 3 you do this.
Very mysterious.
Yeah. So maybe they'll explain it at some point. Maybe they never will. I think I'd be kind of fine either way. So like I said, I played this before. I actually talked about it on the show to quite an extent previously, to the point where I went back and listened to some of those. So I was like, what was I saying about Persona 3 back then? And hilariously enough, I pretty much had the same reaction to it now as I apparently did back then, which is, like, in general, it's pretty good. It's like a pretty solid sort of dungeon crawling RPG. It's, like I said, it's sort of a roguelike tower that you're exploring. So every time you go into this dungeon, it's, slightly different, pretty basic dungeon layouts, but it's not like the sort of bespoke dungeons in a Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or something like that. And then the battles are, I feel like they're pretty typical JRPG fare. Put down the back of the box. You've got a party full of these high school students, and you just fight monsters. And by using the right persona abilities on the right monsters, you can exploit their weaknesses and that sort of leads to like follow-up attacks and that sort of thing. And from what I understand, that is kind of a constant in the Persona series.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As are the sort of the personas themselves, the mechanism by which you sort of collect new ones by trying to sort of bribe or talk them into joining your party, and then you can take them back and sacrifice them and remix them and make bigger, stronger ones. That happens, to the best of my knowledge, through all of the later Persona games 3, 4, and 5, and through much of the Shin Megami Tensei main games as well.
Yeah, so the parent series or whatever that is.
Yeah, and in fact, it's a lot of the same Persona. I think they're just reusing artwork in a lot of these games. But you're more or less collecting the same Persona in all versions of Persona / SMT.
That's good. I mean, it's kind of like Pokemon, where it's generally the same catalog of Pokemon, and they add a few new ones each time. But
yeah.
I think that was a big sort of hurdle for me to get over the first time I played this, and also to some extent this time, because I'm just not like versed in all the Persona that are out there. So I don't really know, like, oh, should I be looking for this type of Persona? Because this is like an ice monster, and nothing really looks like whatever it actually does in battle. They're just sort of arbitrarily casting fire and ice spells and that sort of thing.
True, unless you find Jack Frost.
And I did find Jack Frost, so that was good. So it's just like a lot of stuff that you sort of have to learn until it becomes intuitive.
Yeah, but then you know it, and you can play all of the Persona games.
Then you're good. You can play every Persona game, and it's great. But the other reaction I had was that I don't love the fact that there is this time limit throughout the entire game, because the premise is it takes place over the course of a school year in Japan. Which I don't know if they just start school in April, but that's when the game starts. And the idea is that you, the plot progresses over an entire calendar year. So, or roughly, I don't know when it actually finishes. But you really do just go through this loop of going to school every day. There's a segment when you're in class, and then there's an after school segment where you're sort of free to do whatever you want, or most of the time you can do whatever you want. And then there's the dark hour, and that's what the time you spend in the dungeon. And it's a really interesting premise, but I feel like there's just so much to do in this game, or it feels like there's so much to do between collecting all the personas and fusing the personas together, and you have to manage relationships with all your classmates and other characters around the city. It just feels like you're very aware that there's a finite amount of time to do all of this stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
And I understand that it is optimistic to think that I would be able to do 100% of it in my first playthrough of this game. But it really feels like you need to just have a walkthrough open the whole time you're playing this, which I don't love. And it also, I feel like it's just maybe a little too long, but that's a separate issue.
I think that's fair. And it is one of my biggest kind of ongoing frustrations with the Persona games, is that these things are 100 plus hours in some cases. And if you want to see everything, do everything, if you're that kind of video game player, you have to play them multiple times. Because you get points in your day where you're like, hey, do you want to hang out with Randy and go get ramen? Or do you want to hang out with DJ and go to the arcade? And if you pick Randy, DJ hates you forever and he's never your friend anymore.
That's not quite. That's not exactly what happens.
I know.
I mean, but I was initially afried that was going to be the case, but thankfully it is not.
But maybe you need, I forget who I picked to go to get ramen with now, but maybe you need DJ's support because the thing that he's good at enhances your ability, and that social link is stronger now, and you'll fight better together in the dark hour.
Yes.
But you don't know that. So you're just trying to let's go for ramen. And somehow you've screwed yourself out of building that relationship. The game does not really telegraph a lot of that stuff. It gives you very kind of seemingly binary choices that have surprisingly kind of complex and devastating repercussions sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's very opaque in a lot of its systems, which, it's kind of fun because you don't really look like it's interesting not having a clear benefit to whatever you're doing. Because sometimes it really does just feel like, oh yeah, I should go to track practice or whatever after school, because that sounds like something my character would do. But I'm in the mindset of like, I really need to be like efficiently pursuing these social links, because everything is connected. Like you said, like everything sort of enhances your persona abilities, or it helps unlock features elsewhere in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like you just need to be as productive as possible, or at least that's how I'm approaching it, because like I'm not going to do a second playthrough of this. That seems unlikely. So I just want to be able to do all the things that I sort of want to do in this initial playthrough.
Yeah. And I think for you to be able to kind of like navigate that path is going to require you using a guide from somebody who knows what the right choices to make are at the right times. Yeah. Because there's no context in the game that points you in that direction, which is cool. If you just want to sort of like go with the flow of Persona, it should feel like that. But if you're you or me in a lot of ways and want to like, well, how do I get like optimum Persona 3 experience so that I don't have to play this game twice or 3 times? You're probably going to need somebody on GameFAQs who knows their way through those things.
Yeah. Fortunately, this is a fairly old game at this point, so there's plenty of resources that I've been using.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish there was just sort of a way to like hit pause on the calendar and, take care of all the currently available social links. And sometimes I just want to spend some time in the dungeon. And that's another thing, because if you spend too long in there, your characters get tired, and then they're too tired to go to the dungeon the next day. And I think, the idea is that in that case, instead of going to the dungeon, you do other things. Like that's when you maintain all of your other social connections.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what if I wanted to just spend an entire week going to the dungeon every night? You can't really do that. So it's just a weird sort of like trade-off to get used to.
Yeah.
That it feels very different from any other RPG that I've played.
It does create a lot of pressure. You do sort of I always have, even in Persona games, this like sneaking suspicion, like, what am I sacrificing for this choice? Like, what am I missing by eating ramen with Randy? Yeah. And sometimes I want to be the video game player who just sort of like, just goes with it. Just enjoy it, man. But more often than not, I'm like, no, I must collect everything. And that makes it hard to sort of have fun with something like this, where those choices can feel a little overwhelming sometimes. And maybe you don't have all of the information you need to make those choices, which is very much by design, but still feels like paralyzing.
Yeah. My sneaking suspicion is that there's actually quite a lot of time to do everything you want to do in this game. Maybe not like 100% it.
Right.
But, like I'm in June, I think. Just got to June, which is farther than I got in my previous playthrough.
Hey, good.
By the way. It's ridiculous. I kept thinking like, oh, I'm caught up at this point. Like I'm way farther than I was before. And then I would just get to a scene and I was like, oh no, I remember this part. I am nowhere near caught up. But anyway, I'm in June. I'm definitely farther than I've ever been in this game. And I'm just like, geez, there's still, like 8 or 9 months left to go? So I feel like there's going to be enough time to like establish social links with a lot of the characters that I would like to, or like evolve my persona or whatever, fuse them to get the persona that I want.
Yeah.
It's just, like in general, I don't like to have this time limit like hanging over my head. Because even though it seems like there will probably be a lot of time to get everything done, it's just kind of like constantly progressing, which is kind of stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel that. And unfortunately, that never goes away. That is a hallmark of a Persona game. And at least I've not played Persona 1 or 2, but from my experiences with 3, 4, and 5, that is pretty much the foundation they're all built on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering if I eventually plan to play 4 and 5. Probably Persona 6 will be out by the time we get around to 5. But I'm wondering if I can just like sort of separate myself from just worrying about the calendar too much and get into one of those without using a guide and see how that goes. Maybe I'll be a little more familiar with like Persona Fusion.
Yeah.
And sort of just the rhythm of everything by that time.
Or the other alternative is just sort of embrace your guide life and and just find somebody on the internet who has sort of charted the optimum path.
Yeah, I don't think I like that though. I think
no,
given those two options, I would much rather prefer the other one, because there are times like, so I took this on vacation. I was away from Wi-Fi recently. And I was trying to play through this, and I just thought, well, no, I should wait until I'm like back home so I can get back to my guides and make sure I'm not missing some critical date on the calendar.
Oh no.
So I find it kind of difficult to play and not have immediate access to the guide if I need it. So the idea of trying to play one of these and basically just be like following a walkthrough 100% of the time sounds like a nightmare. I don't know if I've ever tried to play a game like that, unless there was some like completely weird achievement. I think in one of the Assassin's Creed games, I like collected all the feathers or the flags or whatever.
Oh wow!
And that was like not an incredibly fun experience, or just a way to take in a game.
I did it, and I do it. I think like a lot of gamers do. You get to some like a boss battle I can't get past, or so you look up how do you beat world 2-3 boss in this game.
Sure.
But yeah, beginning to end, I think the last one I remember is Fez. Because I played Fez all the way through alone without a guide and just kind of intuited and fumbled my way through it. And I was like, okay, that was cool, but I don't understand why people love this game. And then on a replay, it came out for the Switch many years later. And at that point, obviously, everybody had unpacked most of the secrets of that game. So I did a minute by minute kind of like, go here and do this, turn this thing over, reveal this message. And it was a whole different experience. I was like, there's so much game I missed. What was I doing? What did I play? Because that wasn't Fez. So it's, I think that game benefited from it, but it was still a lot of like, read a page or two of text and then unpause the game and do the thing that it said and then go back and read the guide again. And that never feels great.
So that's the thing I'm trying to avoid. Like, I'm totally fine. Like, if I got stuck on a boss, guides are out there. I'll go look it up. But in this, I will go and just be like, okay, what happens in June? What happens for the next 30 days in this game? Are there any events that I have to be like looking out for? Mm-hmm. Which is better than, what happens tomorrow in this game, and then what happens the next day. Just doing this on a day by day basis. So it's not like I have the guide open all the time, but it's still, I feel like I'm a little more guide reliant than I would like to be. But overall, I have the sense that I'm enjoying it. Like I'm glad to be that I've finally come back to it and have been making more progress and sort of understand the inner workings of it better. Like, I don't think I even did Persona Fusion in my previous playthrough because it's incredibly intimidating.
It
and
can
there was
feel
a lot of stuff I didn't understand about it.
Yeah. Well, and you're sacrificing persona you already have to achieve it. So if the outcome is not good, you've given up good cards, good personas.
Yeah, well, I was trying to figure out, like, I was trying to look up guides, and the whole like explain to me like I'm 5 thing. It was like, somebody like give me that for a Persona Fusion, which just sounds like you're an insane person. And like every guide I would run into still managed to say like, okay, here's Persona Fusion for beginners, and it was clearly not. It was like 2nd or 3rd level for Persona Fusion. Until I just figured this out on my own, like, oh, you can just buy back the Persona you fused. And the whole time I was thinking like, oh, these are gone forever, so I really shouldn't screw this up. So now I'm just fusing Persona all the time.
Oh, I don't remember a mechanism to buy them back, so that's interesting.
Maybe it's only in Persona 3? I don't know. And you can also like just go into the dungeon and obtain them through like tarot cards after battles, which is a much more cost-effective way to do that. But then that entails, then you're taking an extra trip into the dungeon, and your characters are getting tired, so it's just like another thing you have to sort of spend your time on. And I keep thinking like, oh, if this was Final Fantasy or like Pokemon or whatever, I could spend as much time farming up tarot cards as I wanted and just have the most incredible Persona bestiary ever. But it's just yet another sort of trade-off that you have to make.
Right, but because it's Persona, that clock is always ticking.
Yeah. So again, don't love that aspect of it, but I don't know. Maybe when it rolls around to like February or whatever, and I'm just a Persona veteran, I'll just look back and laugh at how OCD I was about keeping track of all my Persona at the start of the game.
Yeah. Now I want to play a Persona game.
Yeah.
It is equal parts the worst and the best thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can't remember playing another game where I was just like, oh, I really don't like this aspect of it, but I'm enjoying the rest of it, so I'm willing to put up with it at least for I think it's been like 15 or 20 hours so far. So, only 60 hours to go.
We'll see what
we're doing.
You're practically done.
Oh, it just feels endless. Like I don't think it needs to be this long, but who knows? Apparently it does. Apparently that's what people want because they just keep making these things and they're all 80 hours long.
I think Persona could benefit from like, instead of every 7 years release, like some 100-hour experience, like give me a side story. Give me a little pocket experience of Persona. Give me a 25-hour, give me a 10-hour.
Give me a Persona
RPG
game that's only a month long.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. I think that'd be. It is intimidating, and not just Persona games, but Dragon Quest games and billions of other JRPGs that I just downloaded furiously off the 3DS eShop because I was afraid they were going to go away forever. Like, when do I find time to tackle these? When on the short end, they're all about 60 to 75 hours long. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot. And I there was a time in my life where it seemed perfectly reasonable that a video game be 100 hours long. That is not my current sort of adulthood situation. So, I don't know. As much as I enjoy Persona games, I've never seen credits roll on one, and it is because they're just so intimidating to get over that hump.
Mm-hmm. In a weird way, I think like the 80 hour or 100 hour, however long it ends up being, that sort of like duration doesn't wouldn't bother me as much if it weren't for the whole calendar thing, because it's because of the length of it that I'm not going to get to play it again, or it's very unlikely. Although this is my second time playing it, so who knows? So I just feel like that's what is sort of creating the pressure to like just experience as much of it as possible.
Sure.
In this playthrough, like eventually when I go back to Dragon Quest 11, I'll just be like, oh, it's 100 hours long, and eventually I'll just get through all 100 hours of it. But I don't expect to be just stressing out about it along the way.
Right, because it doesn't have the choice system that Persona has, where you're basically eliminating the possibility that there are things that you can see or do. I'm much less concerned about having an optimal playthrough of Dragon Quest XI.
Sure. Compared to something like a Persona game.
Both RPGs, very different structures.
Yeah.
I can see that, yeah.
But anyway, Persona 3. It still exists. I'm glad that it's on more stuff now. Because it was getting hard to find. It was on like PS2 and PSP, which is... it just kind of shows how old the game is at this point. But now I think it's on a bunch of stuff, and it's even on Steam, so it's probably just going to be around forever.
What are you playing it on that you were able to take it on vacation with you?
That's a good question. So I was playing it on my my Odin handheld, which I haven't spent a lot of time talking about on here, but it's basically an Android portable. And I'm playing... I got this thing to do emulation, basically. So I'm actually playing the PS2 version, and not the new portable re-release, which is a whole other thing because there's a lot of differences between those two versions.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah, so that's even another question. Like maybe at some point I should play Persona 3 Portable and see how that compares.
That's a question you should have asked yourself 15 hours ago.
I actually, so when I started playing this for the first time, I started a game on both versions. I started the PS2 one and the PSP one, and I was just like, I can see how this compares. I'm going to play each one for like a couple hours and make a choice. And I ended up sticking with the PS2 one because my PSP or Vita or whatever I was playing on just crashed all the time. Oh. So that's kind of a dumb reason not to play that one. But I feel like initially, for my first sort of like full playthrough of Persona 3, the PS2 one is the way to go, because it just feels a little more, like a little less streamlined, if that makes sense. From what I understand about the portable version, it actually removes a lot of the sort of overworld and like sequences where you're walking around the school in favor of just having menus for all of that.
Yeah, it's just a map with dots on it in the portable version, yeah.
Which I appreciate, and that probably works better as a portable experience and is just more streamlined in general. But, I like steering my little guy around the school and going to the mall and all that stuff.
Yeah. Persona 3 portable, I think they call it like P3 portable, right? Is that the...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the only Persona game that you can be a female protagonist, though.
Yes. That's true. So now I have to play it.
You're right.
Just playing as the guy in this one.
The dude. Yeah. Cool. Well, it's exciting. I'm glad you went back to it. It's I have fond memories of the time I spent with that game, and even though I didn't finish it, it is still a game I like a lot. It's a series I like a lot. So anytime I get a chance to talk about it or hear somebody else talk about it, it's always fun for me.
Yeah, I swear I'm going to get through it this time. I have 6 weeks before Zelda comes out. That should be plenty of time, right?
Oh yeah, I believe in you. Absolutely.
There's like 60 hours in between now and then.
8 to 10 hours a day, every day between now and
that's all it takes.
You're fine. Yep. You got this.
Should be good.
Cool. All right. We should wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, please follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. And you can always get show notes and links and tell us what you thought about this episode at VGHangover.com. We would love for you to join our Discord. You can hang out with us and the folks from our community, chat about video games and other fun pop culture things. There's always a link to that up at VGHangover.com as well. And it would help us out immensely if you would subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcasting app of choice. And maybe help us out by telling your friends about the show.
Yeah. Really helps us get the word out. One of the best ways for us to reach new listeners. So we appreciate that a lot. We want to give thanks again to Carl Brueggemann for our intro and outro music this week. If you'd like to hear more of his work, you can go to carlbmusic.bandcamp.com and just download that entire discography. Why would you just stop at one album? Just go for it.
No half measures. Just do the whole thing.
Yeah, I gotta commit. Yeah. Do it.
We'll be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.